All right. I mean, a lot of this piece is already in place. It's great. The work you've done on it has paid dividends. No, bravo, it sounds good. How much do you talk and think about rhetoric in your group? Not too much. Okay, so yeah, fine, that's fine. So I often think of string quartet playing, I've come to think of it as a kind of barbershop on speed, right? It's something that it's at once piano sonata music and vocal quartet music, and yet it does much more than you could do individually with either of those media. And so any gesture, any group has a function in terms of delivering the story of a piece all its own, and that is really important to lean into and characterize, not to the extent of caricature, but to the extent you always are playing with a large degree of intention. So take this opening. Pom, 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 pom. What is that? Where does it come from? What's it doing? Any ideas?
I feel it as like, because obviously this is the bird quartet. I feel two of the same bird, and tootling along.
Okay, yeah, love that. Was the bird a name Haydn gave to it?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So love that as an incipient idea, but I think, where do these birds come from, right? Where do they materialize at the moment the music starts, or have they been there and we just become aware of them?
We become aware of them.
Right. And so I think the way we're starting, for instance, is it's great quartet technique. You look at each other, you lead, it's nicely done. I think now it's time to kind of get more of the kind of quartet telekinesis going, or not telepathy going, and bum, 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 bum. You will start together if you look at each other and feel it the same way. There's not necessarily need to, but So, and I think that will create more of an inviting atmosphere for this line in the first violin to emerge, because what we're getting a little bit at the moment is like, idea, and they're well executed, and you've done a great job bringing them together. Now it's kind of finding the ways of smoothing over the differences between those ideas and finding the flow between them, finding how they support and interact with one another. So let's take that beginning, and there's a sense of invitation, right? This emerges, and then this emerges, and then it's sort of realized by the fourth bar. We get the forte, the arrival, and the cello is sort of, okay, we're here. So leaning into the emergent is a little more of what I think this beginning needs. So if you find that, yes, that's so much more exciting, right? Because it just happens. It's marvelous. Well done. Let's do that again. And then I won't stop you, sorry. But just wanted to express my appreciation. Okay, great. Now let's think about the stratification here, right? So we've got obviously the outer lines. It's sounding a little bit, what's the word I'm looking for? A little unclear, just in terms of what's happening here. We've got the first violin really doing the heavy lifting, the middle two voices supporting, and the cello is driving up from the bass, yeah? It's all very generous, and it sounds good, but I'm not entirely clear where my ear is supposed to be going. So let's take just maybe, yeah, we go from the beginning again, and with those bars, listen out for what role you're inhabiting in the middle of, in this first tutti. Because it's important that this is clear so we set up expectations for the rest of the piece, right? What you did it actually very well in bar 117. Now, I don't know if you remember what you did, but it was clearer. So I think just let's try it once more, and then we might go a little more into what that entails. But let's see. Okay. Let's try it once more. It's like you did it beautifully the very first time, and I think buzzwords are, to feel it the same way. Give yourselves time to lean into each other and feel it the same way, and don't necessarily overthink it. Okay, great. So what I may be missing a little of is the sense of tensile strength in the internal support, the internal voices. So the fact that you are the most sustained means you have within the text you have the role of sustaining, funnily enough. So you need to sort of do that together. I see you looking at the cello, I see you looking at the foot, and looking around, it's lovely. But I think if you can support those lines together and be more unified in your approach to those, when you have lines in unison like that, or in harmony that are doing the same thing in harmony, you can create this sort of between you. If there's an interlocking thing and it can pull against each other and it can flex, and you sustain this force between you. And I think these lines need that a little more, so that these on the outer voices can further articulate their characters with that internal support. So you want to feel like, this against each other. Once more. Lovely. So we just lost a little bit of like the character. It's work and its commitment to the feeling of it that sustains it over the course of the piece, right? So this, again, we have this da-da-da-da-dum. It's the same invite, if not more sensitive, because we're in the minor on the second. So I also just want to talk a little bit about these. The first one decays quite a bit. And is that on purpose? Okay. So I think, each one of those serves a role in growing the audience's invitation into the music, right? So we've got two quite, distinct blocks at the beginning, and then the music departs. But we'll get to that in a second. So last time from the beginning, it was stronger from you two. Still a little more co-feeling. That makes sense? Yeah. Sorry to stop you again. Let's take that minor. Let's take the minor. So, sorry, I know I said we'd go on. But as we're playing it, I think you've got the same thing twice, right? And so the second time, we can afford to do more with it. First time you've established expectations, we know what we're going to hear. And he wants to repeat this idea, so it needs a little more. So the pianos can be quieter, the crescendo can be more, and the forte can be more still. You know, you're still in your roles. It's a supportive forte, it's a soloist forte, it's a driving bass forte, but it's more. So just take the minor once more and give me those extremes. Okay, yeah. So, isn't it crazy to have, I know I keep stopping, I'm sorry, but isn't it crazy to have, like, what, 6 bars of music, and then stop. And 6 bars of music, and then, what's that doing? Why is it like that this, and it's so witty, I think. Haydn famous for his wit, and for doing all sorts of fun things with the classical form. So taking the first theme and having it so closed, and then an exact repetition of that first theme, it's formally throwing up some questions. And those questions we start to explore answers to from 13. And that means we can't give the game away immediately. It's not yet found its footing. You know, this is the beginning of a longer process. So the piano, the quality of the character and of the dynamics at 13 needs to be more searching. Needs to be a little right? So he could, and then that is his own classical music. He could round it off, and then off we go. So there's this sense at 13, right? So we've had 2 statements, a thesis per se, and then the beginning of the exploration is what's happening in terms of the rhetoric, and that we can lean into that more. So, all that in mind, let's go from the beginning, and I challenge you at 18 to hit me with something that's come out. So that if the narrative is doing this, the argument's doing this, it then go bam, you know, and there's a new thing that's come in. This is in a way the end of the introduction, right? So. Beautiful. So, there's a little more to get into in 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. This we've got, it goes somewhere different from the first time. You know, this is a part of your internal step in the exploration of this argument, this rhetoric, right? So we're not going to the forte. We've got, you know, how are we going to carry over the feeling into that? You know, so, because it's not really an arrival, is it? But it's also not a continuation. So it's both in a way, and it's neither, because he's driving the music somewhere slightly different. He's taking ideas that have come before and transforming them. So are we going to sink into that?
Yeah, I kind of see 15 as like, that in itself is a surprise. It followed the like formula that we've just had.
Right.
And so yeah, like a bit more like sustained.
Yes, I agree. The it is a surprise. Is that surprise kind of a haha, like surprised you, or is it, or does the surprise keep going? But I'm searching for more of a kind of involvement in the role that bit is playing. So we had it's got to grow out from it somehow, it's got to keep and transform. Well, in order to transform, it has to keep something going, right? So I just felt when we played it then, it was yum bum 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 bum. It was slightly, it was too different in its flavor. It's there's a deeper thing, a deeper feeling that's got to be continued through this passage while the surface qualities change, and that's what's going to take you to, and then we're off. Now you're phrasing these arpeggios very beautifully. I think. Do you all see this as ya ba 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 bum, ta ya bum bum bum? That sort of shape as a tail, a tapering. Why?
Because then it goes somewhere the third time. It sort of continues.
Okay.
Step and then it goes.
Sure. All right, yeah. So maybe then the third time the individual tapering doesn't need to be as pronounced. If you have the four of you, but what you've got to do is create this larger sense of feeling, what's happening in these larger swathes and where we're going with it. So these individual details that you've got sorted out very nicely, good quartet technique, you've got the piece, like there's great work that's been done on it already. Now what are the phases we go through and how do we sustain that on a deeper level, right? So let's take 13. And whatever you invite in at 13, I would love you to, I'm just fiddling with my mic, sorry. I would love you to maintain and transform throughout 15, 16, 17. And then you have the lovely job of sitting on top and singing, and okay, let's go, 13. Lovely. Lovely. So articulation of the quavers at 18, I mean, they've been so smooth up to this point. I know he doesn't write any staccatos. I wonder if they're just a little a little too tenuto-y, for want of a better word. I can understand there's, the carrots don't continue, but I think giving it there's got to be a kind of, if that's a springboard, then what comes afterwards is like bum 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 bum, right? I think we lose some of the lift if it's too weighted. This was really good. I really enjoyed that. You kind of, what you did was you kept something going on a deeper level, on a felt level, even while the surface details changed, and that was very exciting. So bravo. And this is nice. This swell we've got. Now. This restart at 24, 5, 6, 7, 27. I get that you're going for something more overt with it this time, right? A little cheekier with the music that's coming up. It makes sense. So what you're doing is getting at inviting in a different character, right? Does it need to be such a restart? Can you invite in? I'm doing that thing where you ask questions in a way where the answer I want is really obvious. So apologies, but what I mean to say is I don't think it needs to be so clean cut. Because he's done enough to articulate the form here to show that it's a stop and it's different. You can maybe. There's room to turn to each other and express something new, sure. It doesn't need to be a no, this is great. The bit that I kind of had more of an issue with is at 32. I'm getting a little bit of can it be, if you've got internal antiphony within your part, can you change roles accordingly? And create more of a passing around a back and forth, show the games going on here. What does your individual part mean and what can it sustain in relation to all the others? I'm asking all these questions and it sounds very cerebral, but it's much more of a felt thing. And it's a co-felt thing. So why don't we go from, 18 can be a bit more as well, by the way. So, give it, strident, let's have it. Because we've had 2 fortes already. So this one can be, and this is the one that's taking us to new places. So it can be the most exciting one, yeah. Thank you for your patience and work. This is all part of the joy of quartet playing, is getting into the deeper stuff like this. So let's go from 13 once more. And I think, yeah, let's just go from 13 once more. If anything occurs, we might work a little bit on this section as well. But Eric, carry on. Lovely, 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 lovely. Awesome. Well done, guys. It's sounding better already. While the internal voices are now going to a different place and changing and sustaining, there's something to be found here in this part as well. You know, this is the first time we've had such a kind of, in a way, pathetic gesture, you know? Like pathetic in the Tchaikovsky sixth sense, right? And so there's something that you can bring to that tone, that D, that's different, that will make this seem more organic. You know, they've created this change. You can be part of that as well. In fact, you're a very important part of that as the principal voice. You know, if in some way, kind of makes them go into the sustain. It's inviting something new, right? And then that can be, it's your role to also carry that through. And the width there is still within the same emotional space, and then ba. That was good. It was a nice forte. Now, I don't think, the thing I feel about the phrasing away, yeah, it feels slightly mannered, a little bit planned, you know, like it's a nice plan, it's nice manners, but it comes across as a little bit a feeling of manners, you know? So, pom, 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 pom. Can it have the lift and the lightness that you're looking for without kind of fading away as much? It's more of an articulation, a feeling thing. If you can feel that gesture without without pinning it on the more surface elements like the dynamic, pom, 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 or pinning it on one of the surface elements, right? Because all the surface elements work together, right, to create something deeper. Pom, 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 pom. And then hum, pum, pum, pum. That one can actually crescendo, I think, because you've got the rising steps. And I think this, you're still the sustain, right? He's maintaining something from the previous few bars. So I don't think coming away through that note serves that constant transformation that's going on in the same way that it can be actually in a way more simple because you're holding it and it's exciting. Okay, let's go again from 13, my favorite spot. Once more, sorry, I'm just gonna explore a bit of sound in this bit. I haven't played yet today, so apologies. Oh no, we don't want that to fall over. She'll be fine. Okay. Okay. Let's see if I can do this, right? So, can we go from that bar? Whatever the notes are. So, the once more. Let me have a look at the part. Okay, there. No, this is good. This is good. Thank you. Lovely. Yeah, thank you guys. So I'm not I can play it so much, you know, it could be so much better, but there's it can be very sensitive. If you distribute your bow so that you get to the tip by the end of that, maybe a little bit more in the middle. Let's have it once more. Nice, nice, nice. If you bring it a little lower down and then... So the whole thing feels like one bow in a way. Because at the moment what we got there was sort of a... And I can see it and I love the intention to find something in it. You did the slight elongation of the A, it's very expressive, it's lovely. But I don't think that's the kind of expression that we're looking for. We're looking for, it's within the simplicity. It's a very just subtle, gentle thing over onto the D. It's in a way riding their wave.
Yeah.
Okay, once more. Lovely, lovely, lovely. That F major bar is so beautiful. You know, and so let's open it. Let's open it a little more. Maybe go from so what is that? Bar 22. Let's go from 22. So I think in the first fiddle it can that can be the note, and then because we've got the same gesture, right? It's just smaller. So and then lovely. All right, once more. Well, actually, let's go from 18. Let's go from 18. And as well, the articulation you choose it is it a pa, is it a ta, is it a ga? You know, it's. I don't think it's a ga. It sounds very aggressive, but it's. I mean, I'd probably go for a pa, right? But there's an air in the pop, like a. No, that's too much. There you go. Articulated but not attacked, and always. It's when we have a new gesture like this, a new rhetorical section, what's the consonant that's going to set that off? And then we all do that together. It can be a little bit of what I'm getting is a see, it's the difference between there's the difference between and hear it? Sustain and grow, open. Okay, and then here, what's the consonant, do you think? Is it? Because at the moment I'm getting a little bit of a, it's a little bit. I sort of think, oh! So maybe, a little, do we want to accent the first note? Or, I mean, I like this sort of a bit of energy, but if you are going to give it a zip of energy on the first note, then it needs to be subtle, I think. And because we talked about continuation and transformation, right? So maybe just go from 24. And now, so given that these are releasing, so we talked about the, before there's the, whatever it is. Or whatever the notes are. There's the sustained transformation. So here we have. I don't think it needs to let go. Because the fact he's bringing the first subject as a counter subject in the second subject is wild. We love it. So if you let go though, it makes the whole thing more modular. We get like, and it can be, but you don't need to follow suit and that's part of the conversation. You're offering something different. It's still, you can articulate and you can interact with everyone around you, but it's still your own line. So let's go from the beginning of the 24, 25, 26, 27. Okay, and then yes, so then we breathe. This transformation is like what Beethoven took and ran with, we have second subject, we're thinking, oh, lovely, G, whatever, and then he could like go, or whatever, and off he goes, and makes that a nice subject. But instead, we get, like, how crazy is that? So, whoever has the B flat, and you're not playing before, so you get time to choose your color, choose your consonant. I'm throwing all the metaphors around here. I hope it's not too silly. So we get, there's an innocence, we can prance along. And then you choose something different. Send a cold gust of raspberries to the audience, whatever, but just something, like there's a chill that goes down the spine here, there's a cloud that comes over the sun, whatever, but like make it happen. And it's not like he's done something completely different, he's just changed it again. So the deeper thing can be sustained over into that, but with a darker element, So. Very nice. Okay, so how do we tackle this? How do we tackle this? Because it is like, how do these relate?
It's like they're going to that digga-digga-dum, but it's like.
And where do they come from?
They kind of grow out of the end of the first.
So it's like, in a way.
Yeah.
It's a different idea, but it springs from the quaver.
Yeah. Like bounces off it. Digga-digga-dum. Boom. Like.
Yeah. So then, if you release this so much, does that give you enough to show the relation of the rest of the bar rhetorically? Because you'd probably have to, in order for that to be the case, right? Whereas if you, right? It's, yeah? So, do you get the principle there? That what you're doing rhetorically with this shape is meaning that it's breaking the rest of it up, or it's contributing towards breaking the rest of it up, So I'm not pinning. It's like this. There's a lot that goes into it, how it's all shaped. So, but yeah. it can be, I think, a little more sustained in its energy and its presence.
Yeah.
And then this, well, we'll get to that. See how it responds first. Okay, better, I think. It's still ever so slightly cut short in its sound, and I think that's partially a resonance thing, the sound you're making on the notes. So if you can find a little more lift and ring, it doesn't necessarily mean louder, but it's like a little bow, so that there's, instead of, because that just is a little deader, right? And now we've got these 4 bars, maybe the most active 4 bars we've had in the piece so far, right? So what is going to invite that? What's going to beget that? I think if you've got, and then this, maybe that's a bit too much. Whatever the notes are. There's a kind of, so this transformation is not only a different color, but it's a different color that's serving the invitation of more kind of, in a way, Sturm und Drang. It's not really Sturm und Drang, but it's going that way. Yeah, so it's not a different color just for a different color's sake, but it has that function. Okay, so let's maybe invite in a little more turbulence with those 4 bars, which are kind of like, there's a cloud going over the sun, rain starts to fall, whatever you can. And this, again, I think, a little more resonance, maybe. Okay, let's go again. That much better. It's much better. It's much better. I think this now it's a question of feeling. The still feels like it stops. The sound is stronger, but I think in you as in that mystical, I want to channel this feeling, and so the sound completely changes way. You need to throw that to the viola, then to the cello. You've thrown it out there, and they throw it back. And you're like showing off in a way, doing this prom in the middle as a response. You look what I can do while you're struggling with what I've thrown you. You're not struggling. It sounds marvelous, but so always opening something with this as opposed to And that's a felt thing. It's got to be conjured from within. You've got to will that to happen. Because I think it serves the music. Okay, let's go again. We can just go from 30. And give me a... Okay, bravo. Yes. Okay, I felt it more. Can we just take you two by yourselves? Whoever has pa-da-da-dum, just play pa-da-da-dum. Everyone stop. And I want you to see how continuous you can make this feel. Okay, so I don't get the feeling that something's being thrown and caught and thrown back. It's going da-da-da-da-dum, pa-da-da-da-dum, pa-da-da-da-dum, Once more. Be free with it, just even if the notes go whatever. Gesture's more important. So I still want more ping pong. You're doing it. It's starting to really come out. And I think we can respond to that. Let's go. So I'm seeing like there's not much bow being used. I think it can be. Even when you have, these, it could be, I suppose, is it? Let's go. Yeah. So now I'm getting the sound for me. I don't quite get the lift from it. It can. There's a difference between this and. Do you hear that? Does it sound different? And it's pretty similar in volume, but the affect is different. So lift it out of the instrument and send it over, and then send it back. That's okay. So I'm getting the lift on the last note. I'm not. No. You're great. No. In the quavers, I want the semi-quavers to just do that as a gesture in a way. Forget about anything else to do with playing it and just channel that. See what happens. So I think just put the main impulse at the start of the gesture, because at the moment it's on the up bow, and I think it has that's what gives it the swing. Let's put it all together now. Let's put it in context. So give me the 2 bars before. Let's go from 30. Lovely. So I'm just going to put one more thought into your brains, and I want you to play the exposition, then we'll be finished, because we're already over time. Knew this was going to happen. I mean, I remember when I had quartet coachings at my fun bonus masters, we'd have an hour and a quarter, and like we'd basically get to roughly the point we've got now. So my professor would be happy. Anyway, these sforzandos, when you have successes sforzandi, there's an invitation to crescendo, I think. It's stylistic. Yeah, it works rhetorically. So at the moment we're getting a little bit bum, and we want it to be and then so it doesn't need to be quite so articulated. It can be more like, So the it's there, but the articulation doesn't need to be like the focal point. It's part of something exciting. Or whatever you want the articulation to be. So that to consider. Let's take a breath and have it from the beginning. I'm going to sit back and enjoy. All right, guys, bravo. Thank you. Thanks. Thank you for your work and effort and energy this morning. It's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.